Hello everybody, welcome to today's video by Maryland Political Predictions, and Scott Brown, the former senator from the state of Massachusetts, is now announcing a run for U.S. Senator in New Hampshire because the incumbent Democratic Senator Jean Shaheen is retiring this year, so she will not be running for re-election. Instead, the Democrats will likely nominate a representative from New Hampshire's 1st Congressional District, Chris Pappas, to be the Democratic nominee. And Scott Brown, he's known as more of a moderate candidate, which could work out well for Republicans in New Hampshire, but let's get into it. Before we do get into it, remember to subscribe and like the video. So, he is definitely the only Republican to enter this race so far, and I'd assume New Hampshire Republicans would nominate him. I don't see a MAGA Republican having a better chance of beating Chris Pappas, but then again, I don't see any Republican beating Chris Pappas as of right now. But if Republicans are going to try and win this seat, it's going to be Scott Brown. So Scott Brown, Democrats, their best attack method is probably calling him a carpetbagger. He's from Massachusetts. He's only held the Senate position in Massachusetts. He was an ambassador to New Zealand, an ambassador to Samoa during the Trump administration. So, Scott Brown, he's never been into New Hampshire politics. I'll say that. And we go here, right? Because New Hampshire Republicans, they were really looking into nominating a Republican governor, a former Republican governor who was term limited in 2025. So he's no longer governor. Chris Sununu, extremely popular governor of this red state. He will not be running for the Senate seat. He announced this a couple months back, so that was a really big heartbreak for the Republicans, because Chris Sununu, he would have beaten Chris Pappas in this polling. He would have beaten Jean Shaheen in this polling. While Shaheen, she would have beaten Brown and this other Republican, Frank Edelblatt. But Shaheen isn't running, but we don't have a poll between Pappas and Brown. So we are definitely going to be watching out for that. But, these predictions for inside elections, they rate it as a battleground. So that's really important. That basically means it's a toss-up. The Cook Political Report ranked it as a lean D. Sabato's Crystal Ball ranked it as lean D. And Race to the White House ranked it as tilt D. So tilt is the closest. And that was in April 27th of 2025. So this is going to be a somewhat close race, I'll say that. But Scott Brown he's nowhere near the favored candidate in this race. Donald Trump, he would have endorsed Chris Sununu, but Sununu, he obviously declined. We'll see how Republicans rally around Scott Brown, because you have these publicly expressed interest people. These people don't even have Wikipedia pages, so they obviously won't be able to win a primary. And then you have a couple more state officials. You actually have Cora Lewandowski. He was a campaign manager for Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. And then you have the former chair of the New Hampshire Republican Party. So you basically have Lewandowski and a couple new people who are into New Hampshire state politics. But Scott Brown, I would definitely say he is the favorite. I do want to say that he already has a big roadblock. You see, Chris Pappas, he's already raised $655,000 and has already started, running ads across the state of New Hampshire. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Scott Brown. There's no doubt about that, because Chris Pappas, he's definitely going to be the nominee. I'll say that. There's nobody else who's a potential, nobody else who's a publicly expressed interest, because Maggie Goodlander, she was a former representative, incumbent representative for New Hampshire's second, very new representative. So Chris Pappas, he's more experienced. He would definitely be the nominee. Annie Cluster, former representative, endorsed Pappas. Jean Shaheen, she's the other senator. She's the incumbent. She endorsed Pappas. And Andrew Volinsky, candidate for governor in 2020. So everybody's kind of rallying around Pappas. We look at these endorsements. The other Maura Sullivan, she's not a big name, but you see these other U.S. senators. These are kind of grassroots names. Alyssa Slotkin, she won a pretty tight Michigan Senate race in 2024. Maggie Hassan, the other senator from the state of New Hampshire. Jean Shaheen, we've talked about that already. And Ruben Gallego also won a pretty close U.S. Senate race against the very controversial Carrie Lake in 2024. So it's likely going to be a Scott Brown versus Chris Papa's New Hampshire Senate race, which is kind of exciting to see. But Scott Brown, I do see him losing right now. But today on Twitter, he posted, he called Chris Papas, he called him Comrade Chris Papas because Representative Papas, he endorsed Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City. So we'll see if that actually plays an impact. But I don't see Zohran Mamdani, if he wins New York City mayor or any of that, I don't see it impacting anywhere else than maybe New York and New Jersey. And even in New York, only like Manhattan, the only New York City I see it being impacted by Mamdani's campaign. And some northeast New Jersey. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll get a poll soon, hopefully. And thank you for watching. This was just kind of an update. Remember to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.